I've taken up the challenge of completing all the games in the Japanese catalog of the Sega Saturn. Although my Japanese language skills are rusty, I am determined to painfully translate my way through each game to achieve my goal. So come along with me on this adventure. Game number 2. Seireki 1999年 Farao no Fukkatsu, also known as Powerslave, Exhumed, or even Powerslave Exhumed. Powerslave is a classic first-person shooter that was first released in September 1996 in the US, October 1996 in Europe, and November 1996 in Japan. It was also available on both the PlayStation and PC, although the PC version differs significantly from the console versions. The game begins with an introduction to the plot. In Powerslave, an alien race known as Exhumed has invaded Egypt and confiscated the body of King Ramses. You play as the hero, who is sent to Karnak to solve the situation, only to have your helicopter shot down. Stranded in Egypt, with no means of communication, you must push forward and take on the Exhumed invaders. The journey begins in the tomb of Ramses, or Ramses no Haka in Japanese. Armed with only a sword, we ventured forth and soon came across our first weapon, a gun, just in time to face off against a red crab-like creature. Taking it down, we collected a blue orb, which serves as ammunition for any weapon type. As we progressed through the tomb, we encountered various traps and obstacles, testing our skills and reflexes. Eventually we reached the resting place of Ramses himself, where he delivered a speech about the returning alien threat and our heroic duty to vanquish them. With renewed determination, we embarked on the next leg of our journey, riding a trusty camel to the ancient city of Karnak. Interestingly, each level in Powerslave begins and ends with a camel. Karnak is a city that holds a central position on the Powerslave map, and we will be returning to it frequently throughout our adventure. As we progress through the game, we'll unlock new abilities that grant us access to previously inaccessible areas, much like in the classic game Metroid. However, for those new to the game, getting lost can be a common occurrence. In this instance, we want to cross the bridge to reach the Sanctuary of Karnak. As we arrived at the Sanctuary of Karnak, we found ourselves facing off against similar enemies. However, we soon encountered one of the game's central mechanics, symbols that act as keys to open specific doors in each level, with 4 different symbols to collect. We came across the third weapon, the machine gun. New enemies appeared, including one that attacks with blue energy blobs, but our trusty machine gun quickly took them down. We came across a swampy area that is currently inaccessible, but will be sure to return at a later time. After battling through waves of enemies and navigating the various challenges that came our way, we finally reached the end of the level. Here we discovered the Ikunputetto no Kutsu, or Sandal of Ikunputet, which grants us the ability to jump higher. We made our way back to the Sanctuary of Karnak to use our newly acquired sandals to access the previously out-of-reach item. We discovered that it's an extra bar of health, a valuable addition that will surely come in handy in the battles ahead. Returning to Karnak, we found that the sandals of Inkputet have granted us access to a new area. We scaled various obstacles, putting our new jumping abilities to good use, and eventually reached a new camel that will take us to the road of Sobek, Sobek Kunomichi. The road of Sobek is a treacherous journey with platforms and obstacles that require precision and careful navigation. We encountered a new enemy, the flying wasps, which proved to be quite a challenge as they buzz around unpredictably, making it hard to track their movements. Our determination paid off as we discovered the first of the 8 pieces of the transmitter we must collect to achieve the best ending, a small mouse-shaped object. Navigating the level proved to be a challenge, and we got lost a few times, but we persevered and eventually made it to the end. Sobek no Seido, the Temple of Sobek. Here we ventured towards the main entrance. While exploring, we stumbled upon a secret area, but it was nothing more than another enemy. This level follows a common format. The exit is located at the center of the room, and we must choose between going left or right. It encourages exploration and some backtracking. I opted to go right, but my progress was halted by a door that required the symbol of war to open. Meanwhile, in the room to the left, we encountered a new obstacle, a green laser door that requires a specific power to open, so we need to return to access it. After entering the adjacent room, we found the symbol of war and a switch which I forgot to activate. Backtracking to the door with the symbol of war, we found ourselves on top of the room we had just been in. The lasers were still active, and it seemed that the switch at the bottom was meant to deactivate them. Despite my expectations, I survived the laser, which I thought would be an instant death. We reached a platform section that I remembered being incredibly difficult as a kid. My hesitation had caused me to fall into the lava and die multiple times. Remember, if you die here, you have to start over from the beginning. Miraculously, I made it to the top on my first attempt. Moving forward, we acquired the symbol of Earth and the symbol of Time, leading us to the final door where we discovered the Mask of Sobek, a valuable artifact that enables us to breathe underwater for a short period. With the mask in hand, we swam our way to the end of the level. We returned to Ramses's tomb, where our next objective was to head south in search of a powerful weapon. Back to Karnak, our goal was to head south in search of water, as we can now explore underwater. However, we had a formidable foe to contend with, the dreaded piranhas. Unfortunately, our trusty guns wouldn't work here, so it was time to unsheath our sword and slice those pesky piranhas into sashimi. But the journey wasn't all bad news. We came across an ankh that granted us an extra bar of health, a much needed boost for what lies ahead. Back in the labyrinth, we needed to search for symbols to open doors that would grant us access to new areas, filled with even more symbols. As we ventured closer to our destination, we encountered the third possible exit of Karnak. We made our way through a dark and winding tunnel to finally reach our ultimate goal, the Amun Mine, or as it's known in Japanese, Amun Kozan. Our journey took us deeper underground as we took an elevator down to the mine. I remember being stuck on this level for days as a kid. The maze-like structure makes it easy to get lost, but with determination we pushed forward. We are treated to a new and exciting decor, accompanied by a fresh background track that sets the tone for the adventure ahead. Like before, we needed to search for symbols to unlock doors and gain access to new areas. We stumbled upon a powerful new weapon, the hand grenade. Not only it is deadly against enemies, but it can also blast through walls and open up previously inaccessible areas. Unfortunately, my old nemesis reared its head once again. I quickly lost my way and found myself back in the beginning area. This happened a few more times before I came across a mysterious pit that required another power to glide down. Even consulting the map proved to be of little help, but I eventually found my way to an underwater area I hadn't explored yet, where I uncovered another piece of the transmitter, and by some stroke of luck, I stumbled upon the symbol of power, though I couldn't remember seeing a corresponding door. But after a bit more platforming, I finally found it in the pit room. We continued our journey towards the gates of Set, or as they say in Japanese, Seto no Mo. Here we encountered a new foe, the dreaded mummies. These undead monsters are tough, but fortunately our trusty hand grenades pack a punch and make short work of them. Unlike the previous level, this one has a lot of platforms to jump on, but it's not quite as maze-like. As we explored, we were teased with the promise of another transmitter piece, keeping us motivated to push forward. Unfortunately, I took a misstep and fell down, but to my relief, I didn't have to start all over again. Instead, I picked myself up and continued on my quest, eventually retrieving the missing transmitter piece. As we neared the end of the level, we were faced with a daunting final door, the head of Set. Our journey continued as we took the camel to the next destination, the Arena of Set, known in Japanese as Seto Arena. This was the first boss of the game. Fortunately, we had the opportunity to stock on health and ammo before jumping in. The battle started with Set summoning ghosts to attack us, but we could easily dodge them by strafing. His jumps made the ground shake, which could freeze us in our tracks, but those could be avoided by jumping just at the right time. We unleashed all our ammunition on Set, and it was enough to bring him down. As a reward, we obtained a new power, the Shoal of Isis, also known as Aishisu no Shoal in Japanese. With this, we could glide through the air by pressing the jump button. Returning to Ramses's tomb, he congratulated us on our triumph and sent us on a new mission to the southwest. Our task: found a powerful weapon that would aid us on our journey. We went back to the mine of Amun, where we headed straight for the pit we discovered earlier. Using our gliding ability, we descended safely into the depth and discovered a new cavern waiting for us. It led us to our next location, the ominous-sounding Cavern of Death, or Shinodokutsu in Japanese. As we explored the cavern, we made our way deeper and deeper, making use of our newly acquired flamethrower to incinerate the mummies that stood in our way. Going back up didn't present much of a challenge. After a long climb, we finally discovered a new camel that would take us to the Nile Canyon, or Nailu no Kyokoku in Japanese. In this level we had to make our way on platforms over the water. Falling was never a big deal, as we could always make our way back up. We went down to unlock new areas, then back up to explore those areas. This level had a transmitter piece that I forgot to pick up. I'm not entirely sure if I would have been able to pick it up without a certain ability you pick up near the end anyway. You know the drill by now. Explore, find symbols, open new doors, get to the camel to Orgon no Toro, the Golden Tower. This might be my favorite level. I can't really explain why, I just like it. We started with yet another choose left or right situation. I can never remember which it is, but I chose left this time. We made our way down, then up. Looks like it was the wrong way. Laser beams stopped us from progressing down and picked this symbol up. Back to the first room, we went right this time and deactivated those laser beams. Then we went back and picked up the symbol of power, which gave us access to a new room. This area here was clearly not accessible for us yet, although I believe speedrunners are able to go that way and bypass quite a chunky part of the game. We picked up the symbol of Earth, which gave us access to a new item, Ankulette no Inori, prayer anklets. I can't remember what this is called in the Western version. They allowed us to walk on the green swampy terrain without getting any damage. Falling into lava didn't result in an instant death as well. Ramses then asked us to go northeast. As we could walk on swamps, we could go back to the sanctuary of Karnak and access this new area, which led us to a new camel to Hekate, which I'm not really sure what it translates to. New environment. I think it was supposed to represent a swamp, but the brown and green are more reminiscent of a forest. There was 2 doors requiring a symbol to open on the left and right. We kept going forward. We found a new weapon, the cobra stick, which appears to be shooting green cobras that can seek enemies, a bit like the weapon mummies are using. This weapon is quite powerful, but it can injure yourself if you shoot something close to you. There was another transmitter piece behind the green energy gate, so we would have to come back for it at some point. From there on, it was the usual. Find a symbol to open a new area, to find a symbol to open a new area, etc. This level introduced a new enemy that can burrow into the ground and then come back where you least expect it to scratch you vigorously, nothing the flamethrower and grenades couldn't handle. We eventually found the camel that led us to the water palace. I think it might be the most difficult level of the whole game. Not only do you have to navigate and find your way through a maze as usual, but you also have to deal with water mines that explode when you go near them, and those freaking piranhas. And that's not everything. You have to be careful with your air, as if you run out, then it's back to the very beginning. When a mine explodes, there's a chance of it dropping an orb, and if you're lucky, you might get a red orb that gives you some health back and air. Fortunately, the cobra stick can be used underwater along with grenades. The end of the level is very unforgiving. You might have to collect the last symbol, and then you quickly have to choose between going left or right. On my first try, I panicked and forgot to collect the symbol, which caused me to be trapped and die. I had to start over from the beginning again. On my second try, I ran out of air in a random area. On my third try, I got to that last area again. This time, I collected the symbol and promptly made my way to the right door. I had no idea if it was the right choice, but it looks like I got lucky this time. Those piranhas almost killed me as I ran out of air, but I eventually made it out of the water and collected a third ankh. We opened the last door, that was at the very beginning of the level by the way, and we took a camel to Suleibu Kiampu, slave camp. This next level didn't present too much of a challenge. The jars had a different shape. I'm just realizing now that they were actually slaves. I got impatient, so I use the grenade jump trick as a shortcut. It takes some of your health out, but it allows you to jump higher. I used that trick a few times. The camel seemed to be reachable with another grenade jump here, but I couldn't pull it off. That actually was a good thing, as I wouldn't have collected a new piece of the transmitter otherwise. Here I was supposed to go round to collect the piece, but I couldn't help but use my new trick again. We eventually made our way to Seireki no Michi, the road to Selkis. This level is not too much of a maze. The difficulty comes from jumping from one platform to another. At the beginning you only risk falling into lava, which doesn't mean instant death anymore, but it is still possible to fall down somewhere you can't get out of. but later, near the end, we had to take a leap of faith, jumping to another platform without even seeing it. I suspect the developers used that bright green because testers got easily lost, not being able to see where one is supposed to go. We hop on the camels that leads us to Seireki no Wana, the trap of Seireki. This was the second boss. I saw a room full of gold and I jumped straight into it with little ammunition. It turned out to be a fatal mistake. I tried using my gun and then my sword. Obviously that wasn't good enough. I got back to the arena of Set where I knew there were some full health and ammunition orbs. Then I felt like I could tackle that boss. With plenty of armor, she didn't put up much of a fight. She exploded in a dozen red crabs. Lovely. We collected a new item, Kilumatu no Scepter, the Kilmat Scepter, and got back to Ramses's tomb. He told us we've done well, but we still need to scale the Mount of Horus to collect the last item. With the Kilmat Scepter, we went back to Hekate to collect a transmitter piece. It was just at the beginning of the level, so it didn't take too much effort. We then headed back to the Temple of Sobek, and we used the scepter again to open a new area with a common that led us to Magma Fields. I'm not sure why they didn't just call it a volcano. We went through more platforms over magma fields. Falling down doesn't kill you, and you can try and go back to the beginning. We collected a new transmitter piece, which looked like the screen of a laptop. We found a new weapon, Ra no Lingo, the Ring of Ra, very effective against hordes of enemies. We encountered a new monster, a sort of dragon that swims in lava and blows fireballs at you. Most of the time, you can just ignore him. If you're on the move, then he probably won't hit you at all. This level didn't present a lot of difficulties. We eventually reached the crater of the volcano, which we had to jump into. This sequence is quite trippy. I picked up left here, not sure what would have happened if I picked up the other way. I probably would have had to start the level again. We found our way to the camel that led us to Horasu no Yama, the Mount of Horus. Here we struggled through more platforms, which I guess was supposed to represent scaling the mountain. Making a mistake here usually means restarting the level from the beginning. This section here was particularly evil. You have to run through the platform as they fall under your feet. At the end of the path, you have to jump on another moving platform, and if you miss it, it's basically game over, with no way of jumping back up. We went through even more platforms going up, and we eventually found Horasu no Hane, the Feather of Horus, which lets us fly if we keep the jump button pressed. Ramses congratulated us for finding all 6 items. We now have to go find his body. We went back to the Mount of Horus to collect a 4th Ankh. I believe there are more scattered throughout the world, but I don't know where they are, and quite frankly, 4 is plenty. We went back to the Golden Tower, where there was an area we couldn't access before. We flew there, killed some mummies, broke a wall, and took a camel to Kaosu no Dangai, Precipice of Chaos. This level is not too hard compared to others, but it might be the one where I got lost the most. You have to be aware of multiple levels. Some areas can be accessed from small openings at the bottom of the lava fields. Others are high up, and you have to fly around to find them. We found a transmitter piece which appeared to be the remaining part of the screen. We also found the last weapon, Manukaru, the Manacle, which you can charge up and release. The lightning bolts seek enemies and inflict a lot of damage. We ran around in circles for a while. We also died a few times, but we eventually found all the symbols and the camel to Kilumatu Colony, the Kilmat Colony. This is where the decor became more like science fiction. This level was a bit strange. Being the last one before tackling the big boss, you'd expect it to be the most challenging, but it isn't really, now that we've collected all the powers and have all the weapons. We encountered a new enemy, the Kilmat, some sort of alien insectoid. We quickly arrived at this room, where the camel to the exit was in plain sight. Now that we can fly, using the grenade trick is even easier. I wonder if the developers intended for this level to be so easy, or if they just ran out of time to balance it. We took the camel to Kilmat. First, I went back to the arena of Set to replenish my health and ammo. Then, I went to Kilmat. Here we had to let go of all our powers, one by one, to open the passageway to the boss. We ended up in space, I think. This last boss was a bullet sponge, but it wasn't too difficult to beat. We kept moving to avoid him. The trick is not to fall off the platform. Once we killed him, we went to collect the body of Ramses. He didn't fail to congratulate us, but we had no means of contacting our people, because we hadn't collected all the pieces of the transmitter. Ramses offered for us to join him in his sarcophagus for eternity. weird. Unfortunately, because we couldn't tell the world what happened, the Killmat came back and annihilated humanity that time. This was obviously the bad ending. We got the credit screen, which is enough for this challenge, but come on, we need to see what the good ending is like. I reset the console and reloaded the save. I scouted through the map for a beep. It turned out I forgot a piece of transmitter in the Nile Canyon. It took me a while, but I eventually found out that this wall was breakable, revealing the entrance of a secret area. We collected the last piece of the transmitter, which appeared to be a headset, and we headed back to Killmat to fight the last boss again. We collected Ramses's body, but this time we had all the pieces of the transmitter, and we could call our people to come and pick us up. Ramses opened up a passage, and we ran to the chopper. We got the happy ending. We brought peace back to Earth. Our hero goes around the world talking about what he's achieved, and somehow that causes the Killmat aliens to never come back again. The peace lasts forever. Another game I really like. I don't even know how many times I completed it, and I could quite happily do it all again. The graphics were good for the time. The Sega Saturn even had larger levels and better lightning effects than the PlayStation. I also feel like texture warping is not as bad on the Saturn as it is on the PlayStation, but that's down to personal preferences. The PlayStation probably had better frame rate on the other hand. I really enjoyed the level design, challenging but not frustrating. Apart from that water palace section, I still hate it to this day. The music and sound effects are also very good, with no subtitles during the dialogues though. It might not be the best game to learn Japanese, which is what this challenge is really about. I give this game 7.8 out of 10, but it is really a masterpiece. I highly recommend it, especially now that a remaster is out. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Here is a sneak peek at the next game. Right, anything can come. 999 possibilities. 3, 2, 1. We play pool. Side pocket. Densetsu no Hustler. Jazzy. So the genre is billiardo, which is just billiard, which is just pool. But that should be fun. Looks like there might be a story mode. Trick game? Whatever that means. Right, so Side Pocket 2 is a billiards game released for the Sega Mega Drive and Sega Saturn in 1995. When brought to North America, the game was renamed Minnesota Fats Pool Legend. While the Mega Drive and Sega Saturn versions of Side Pocket 2 share similar gameplay, the Saturn version has an entirely different story mode, complete with full motion video cutscenes. Two versions also have different soundtracks. Full motion video, wow, for a billiards game. This should be fun.